Good morning, and welcome to the third edition of Mike World Order's Super Saturday. And as always, I'm your host, Mike Thunder. So you don't need to wonder. Today's show, if you remember watching parts 1 and 2 with Starbuck, we mentioned that we were going to bring in the winner of the George Hackenschmidt Invitational Cup. And once again, as a reminder for those who don't know, he is the wrestler known for being the first recognized world heavyweight champion in pro wrestling. And for all you powerlifters out there, he's the sole innovator of the bench press and the hack squat. Now, we actually had this show streamed live on Mike World Order on a private session so people can see it. And the guy who stuck out the most was the guy who actually won it. And I remember seeing this guy before, and I was like, I couldn't put my finger on it. It's like, where did I know this guy? Like, just his wrestling and everything. And then it just popped in my head. He's been on NXT UK. He was part of the WWE UK Championship tournaments, the inaugural one and the second one for the number one contender. This guy has been all over the Northern Europe area. And hopefully one day we get to see him overseas in America because his wrestling style is very amazing, you know. And the guy's been a pro since 2006. That's when he broke out. But it's crazy because that's the year I graduated high school. I mean, how many people can say that, you know, before they even graduate high school, they're a pro wrestler? Trained by men such as Fergal DeWitt, now known as Finn Balor, and Paul Tracy. He's basically, once again, another one of those wrestlers in that Northern Ireland pipeline. Because when you think of Irish pro wrestlers, you already think off the bat. You're thinking of wrestlers like Finn Balor, Sheamus, Becky Lynch, Big Damo, all these. Well, no, Big Damo's actually Scottish. My bad. I always thought he was, but anywho. It's just an ongoing pipeline. And I think this guy is the next one. Like, his time is now, especially watching his wrestling style. And before we bring on our guest, we're going to check out a highlight video of the winner of the George Hackenschmidt Invitational Cup, the first George Hackenschmidt Invitational Cup, the one and only Tucker. And for those who aren't familiar with his moveset, we're going to check him out.
To an end, and we start again. Back to the family, a guaranteed emergency, the radical MCHV, scatter melody. Back to the family, a guaranteed emergency, the radical MCHV, scatter melody. Back to the family, a guaranteed emergency, the radical MCHV, scatter melody. Back to the family, a guaranteed emergency, the radical MCHV, scatter melody. 1, 2, 3, fire! Hey, hey, hey! Sharpen the mix to all the family, a guaranteed emergency, the radical MCHV, scat the melody. Back to the family, a guaranteed emergency, the radical MCHV, scat the melody. 1, 2, 3, fire! To an end, and we start again. Back to the family, a guaranteed emergency, the radical MCHV, scat the melody. Back to the family, a guaranteed emergency, the radical MCHV, scat the melody. Back to the family, a guaranteed emergency, the radical MCHV, scat the melody. Back to the family, a guaranteed emergency, the radical MCHV, scat the melody. 1, 2, 3, fire! Sharpen the mix to all kind of tricks. Up to the pressure, feeling the kicks. You love the sound, we need you to go. Up and down, shitty bow, shitty bow. Back to the family, a guaranteed emergency, the radical MCHV, scat the melody. Back to the family, a guaranteed emergency, the radical MCHV, scat the melody. Back to the family, a guaranteed emergency, the radical MCHV, scat the melody. Back to the family, a guaranteed emergency.
Damn! Did y'all see that one angle he did that super duper kick? Gosh, that damn! I thought he took his. Wow, the dude's head was just like, whoa, yeah. That was some good shit. I'm telling you. Now, once again, before we bring on our guests, I would also want to once again a huge thank you to Michael Majalati over at Slam Wrestling Finland for having this happen. And forgive me, I'm very starstruck right now after watching that highlight video of our guest. Yeah, I heavily appreciate you for causing this collaboration to happen. Now, that being said, welcome to the show, the 2022 first ever George Hackenschmidt Invitational Cup winner, the one, the only, Tucker. How's it going, buddy?
Hey man, how you doing?
Good. First off, congratulations on your win.
Thank you, sir.
So, going into the tournament, what was it like momentum-wise in terms of how each match was up into the win?
So I think like maybe a week or 2 weeks before, I was in Finland for the American Car Show, and I'd mixed it up with some of the Finnish guys, and I kind of realized then just how tough these guys were, and no matter how hard you hit these boys, they were going to keep coming. So leading up to that tournament, I was really I put it up a gear in the gym because I knew, obviously, a tournament being a tournament. I'm pretty experienced with the tournament scene, as you know. That's kind of where I really started to make a name for myself. But I knew these guys were coming for me, and I knew that I was going in there with Starbucks, sorry, who arguably throws the hardest punch in pro wrestling. In fact, I can adhere to that. And now that I've actually felt it myself, he 100% does. And I was absolutely rocked in that match. There was times I was like, "Is there two Starbucks in here?" I'm pretty sure I can see two of them, but yeah, it's very very hard. But as you said there yourself, uh, like that video you showed before, which was awesome by the way. I've never ever seen that before, and that was super cool to hear made that. And I say it all the time, and until you felt that kick, you can't really understand. It doesn't matter how big you are or how small you are. It's going to put you down, and it's as simple as that. And it stood the test of time. Nobody's ever kicked out of that kick. So, and that's why I'm the winner of the George Hackensmith tournament.
Oh yeah, like I remember watching, and I think it was on the Slam Wrestling Finland page. Someone had got like the actual photo of right when you hit it on Starbuck, and I was like, ooh. I mean, you have some lethal kicks. I mean, especially that spinning roundhouse. They remind me of shades of guys like Kofi Kingston, Virgil DeVitt. I even go as much to say a young Minoru Tanaka during his shoot fighting days, because that's some of your. I want to say some of your techniques. It kind of I can see a lot of Minoru Tanaka for some reason.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think I actually remember seeing that kick as a kid from The Amazing Red. That was the first person I ever seen do that, and I was like, "That's sick. That's sick."
Would speaking of Amazing Red, would you consider someone of Red's caliber a dream match if ever booked?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay. So pretty much a lot of inquiring minds want to know. So what got you pretty much started in the business of having that drive, that passion for wanting to be a pro wrestler?
So I always joke and say this, but like I just never, from the first time I laid eyes on it, I just wanted to do it. And that was from the age I think I was maybe 9 or 10. I can't, maybe 9. I think my brother actually introduced me to pro wrestling. And he's like, "Oh, this is super cool. This super edgy stuff." And obviously the Attitude Era and stuff was going on at the time. And I just remember being mesmerized by it all and thinking, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen." And I'm still waiting to grow up, man. So I still love it. Just as much as I loved it then, I love it maybe even more now in different ways, I guess, because I understand it a little bit differently and watch it a little bit differently. But I appreciate it so much more because when you've been in there and you've done it, you understand how good these guys were and just how hard they worked to get that over.
Very, very imaginable. Um, so, seeing the different styles of wrestling you probably seen have endured, what would you honestly say would be the more, and I don't want to loosely use the term, but stiffest style of wrestling that you've dealt with?
What was that, sorry?
What would you consider in terms of like wrestling style, whether it's strong style or UK style or American
Yeah.
style? What would you consider to be probably the most stiffest in terms of like the wrestling style of technique? Like,
I guess
because I've heard that. Oh, go ahead.
strong style and British style are very close. British guys don't mess about, as you know. They hit so hard, but in the best way possible. I think for me personally, in a match when you're getting hit that hard, it just fires you up more and more, and it fires the crowd up. And the more the crowd get fired up, the more we get fired up, and then that's where things just get chaotic. But that's what wrestling is, right? It's just chaos, but chaos that we love to watch and watch unfold.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I also noticed while watching you as a fan, like, um, I know pretty much training, dieting is a big necessity because compare your first WWE run to how you are now, seeing you at the George Hackenschmidt tournament. You was pretty cut up there, buddy. Like I was like, okay, he looks like a completely different man.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So I
Oh
think
yeah.
like when I started out, and obviously everybody you watch on TV from like Hulk Hogan to even like nowadays like Drew Galloway and stuff, how big these guys are. I used to be like, I need to be as big as possible, blah blah blah. But then I started to realize that like guys like Neville, I had a really interesting conversation with Neville in and around the time just after the tournament, I think it was. And as you know, he looks ridiculous. He is in crazy shape. And it worked out that I was actually heavier than him on a scale weight. And I was like, I cannot possibly be heavier than this man. He's got more muscle than I've ever seen. And that really changed my approach to being like more athletic based training, eating a little better. I sort of realized that my body reacts better to just like tons of meat and sort of less carbohydrate. I'll put carbohydrate into my diet when I need to, but I'd pretty much be more of a carnivore as such, and vegetables here and there just to keep the fiber high. But the difference in my mindset, my clarity, brain function, creativity just completely changed, and obviously my shape completely changed as well. So I'll actually be a little bit lighter than I was in the tournament, but I probably look bigger just because my body's in different proportion now.
Yeah, because I honestly thought you were bigger compared to like seeing
Yeah.
you how you were in the UK tournaments for WWE. And I'm like, this dude has put some crazy work in. I mean, even your profile picture. Um, at first, I thought it was Tommaso Ciampa because he's another one
Oh
that
man.
pretty much changed his body. Like the
Yeah,
comparison,
you're
like
my hero.
both of you guys are. It's insane. I mean, I cannot imagine your training and eating routine in terms of getting to that, phase.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because actually, Ciampa's one of the guys who I look at and just think he has the perfect pro wrestling body because he looks amazing. He's a freak athlete, and he's so intense. And that's three boxes I always make sure that I tick as well. I've never ever blew up in a match. I never will. I'll always be sure to be in shape and realize that I need to be outworking every guy that I'm stepping in there with. But that's a major compliment, man. So thank you very much.
Oh, no problem. Like, especially me being someone that has come from a powerlifting background and have trained with bodybuilders, it's pretty much nutrition over everything. And
Yeah.
but pretty much the first question I want to go into is the the UK tournament, the United States Championship tournament. This is pretty much your first match. Um, what would you say would be like the backstory as to how you got the call from WWE to participate in this this new thing that was going on? Because a lot of us, even over here in America, the first thing that came to mind was the United Kingdom Championship. We originally thought the European title was coming back, but
Yeah. That would have
that
been awesome, right?
yeah, I mean, and there's still rumor innuendos of that still happening, but going in that tournament, leading to it, um, what I really want to say is, what was your initial reaction once you got the call from WWE?
Uh, so I had a tryout two maybe 2 weeks beforehand, and tryout went great. Everything I could have done, I done. There was myself, Jordan Devlin, James Drake. There was two other guys. I really can't put my finger on who it was, but it was supposed to be like a 5-man scramble on Monday Night Raw, and Regal was actually telling us, "Look, you guys are going to get a 6-minute slot on Raw." We're all obviously ecstatic. Can't believe it. We're going to get a little bit of TV time, and obviously, as you said before, like WWE exposure is probably the best exposure you can get. The biggest company on the planet, and it was about 5 minutes in, we were all kind of sitting around. Regal was just talking about the business and giving us all advice. And John Laurinaitis came over, and he called Regal over. And I remember just having this crazy, weird feeling come over me, like, we're not going to get to do this match. And Regal came back and said, look, guys, this is how TV works. We need to give Braun Strowman an extra segment. So we're going to have to cut the match, which was obviously crushing. But we all kind of understood that that's part of the business. But that would have been super cool as well. I think Neville might have potentially been in that match as well. And it might have been Drew Gulak or something too, but I can't remember. I know there was 2 pretty big timers in the match, or where there was going to be anyway.
Wow, I mean that's crazy. Before we get to our next question, in the group chat we got Base Kip asking, on your shred diet, what is your calorie intake?
So I would usually sit in and around 3,500 calories most days. But I would be very, very active. I would usually hit, and I coach as well, and I was a personal trainer on the side, but a major thing for people is getting your step count up or your activity level up as such. So I would usually clock in about 12 to 15,000 steps most days. Sometimes more, sometimes a little less, but over the week, just be consistent. That's the best advice I could give anybody, is be consistent with your training and be consistent with your eating, and obviously your sleep and stuff as well is super important.
And then Base Kip also had a follow-up question with that. He wanted to know, in terms of eating fat proteins only, fasting, and he wanted to say thank you because he's on his own fitness journey.
That's awesome. I always say this too, like, for me at the start was for sanity more than vanity, and it still is for sanity, but vanity kind of comes with it, I guess, where you end up naturally your body's going to change shape, and that's the way it goes. And obviously that's pretty handy because pro wrestling is a vanity business. Fasting, I would fast every day because I train at 6 a.m. every day, so I couldn't stomach food before then. I basically get up at about 5:30. I'll have a black coffee, and then get in the car, head to the gym, and I'll do my session. I just prefer training that way. There's no right or wrong. It's not like you can still train with food in your belly. It's absolutely fine. It's just at that time of day, in my opinion, you're far better off fasting, and you won't feel like any issues with digestion. And then when I eat the rest of the day, I find my food digests a lot better because my body is already in that state of it's been hammered, so everything's kind of turning over, you know.
Okay. And I remember doing times of intermittent fasting when training, and much props to you. Being a heavyweight lifter, it's like, oh, I gotta eat something, like every time. I gotta eat something before I lift or do cardio. Like, I'm the opposite, and I used to do the whole black coffee fasting before working out because I remember, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Pumping Iron, he mentioned he would do the exact same thing. So, I mean, it works for a while, but it's like, I gotta eat something. It's amazing.
I think the thing for me is that because I train so early, I'm sort of finished the gym for 9:30 maybe, and then I'll maybe do cardio later. But it means that I have all that extra time in the day to eat more food, so it kind of helps training early. I think sometimes the later you leave it to train in the day, that's where fasting becomes an issue because your window is so small to get your calories in. So if you're training at like 6 in the evening and you're trying to fast all day, I think it's a very, very difficult thing to do. I don't think I could handle that, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's quite a schedule, though. I mean, much props to you for maintaining that discipline. You know, but since we're still on the subject of WWE, it sounds like you're a glutton for punishment with these routines, man. Like, more power to you. I swear it is. So while we're still on the subject of being in WWE. Then WWE
Yeah.
came out with NXT UK's brand, and I remember there you see the physique right there. Big change compared to
Yeah.
the United Kingdom tournament. I remember seeing you on an episode where you were going against the debuting Jordan Devlin, a fellow Irishman as well too. And tell me, what
Yeah.
was that like when that match came on? Because that match alone had a lot of good reviews from people.
Because sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, when it came to you being in NXT UK, I remember one of the first episodes
Yeah.
I saw you on. You were going against Jordan Devlin, who was debuting, and I was saying a lot
Yeah.
of people had a lot of good views about that match on that episode. And for those who got the Peacock Network, check it out; it's on there. But going into that match as well, what was it like, feeling wise? That you're going against your fellow Irishman on a global platform.
It was super cool because over the years, me and Jordan had wrestled a few times together and came up on the same sort of scene in Ireland. He's a phenomenal worker, as you guys already know, I'm sure. And it was crazy because you were kind of coming back through that curtain and going for your feedback from Triple H and Shawn Michaels, which is ridiculous. Now that I'm saying it out loud, and I just remember them saying like, "Really good job," and Shawn put me aside and said, like, your selling and stuff was so good, all the little work and all the little details and stuff. Like, he was like, "Great job." And I just remember like, jeez, like I was waiting to be. It's weird, like no matter how good a match is, when there's guys like that around, you're like, yeah, surely they're gonna grill me here. I did something wrong, or it's not how they would have done it. But to kind of have positive feedback from those guys and they actually have them say that they were impressed or happy with the match, or actually say, like Sean actually pointed out when I made a pin and I had to switch the grip because my arm was hurt, and he was like, that was great. He really really appreciated that sort of small detail.
Speaking of Triple H and Shawn Michaels, what would you say would be like the best advice that they gave you in terms of being a wrestler and whatnot?
Um, this is kind of something that I carry on when I'm coaching now as well. Is that moves don't really matter. So like, there's so many guys now that can do so much crazy cool stuff, but moves don't matter. And it's when it comes to the crowd, they don't care about moves. They care about how you make them feel. So if you think of your favorite wrestlers like Steve Austin or The Rock or The Undertaker, they didn't have a massive arsenal of moves, but the moves that they did have meant something. And that's what I always try and say to guys that I'm coaching. Like, make everything mean something, and then everybody's going to want to see you.
Right. In terms of your wrestling style and character, what would you say is probably the most unique thing about Tucker, the wrestler?
The most unique thing about me is just sort of that fighting from underneath the underdog. So, if you've ever seen the movie Dodgeball, that was pretty much
Yeah.
my life story. So I worked in a really crappy gym. One of my friends worked in a really high class gym. So we used to joke and call it Average Joe's, and then obviously that became my whole persona for a long, long time. And then when I was like first born, and this was probably drilled home in WWE, and you're probably sick of hearing it, but my mom and dad were told that I was going to die and that I was like 12 weeks or 14 weeks premature, and they had 24 hours pretty much to say goodbye to me. And the next day they came in and they're like, I don't know how, but he's still breathing. We've been able to take the tubes out now. He's breathing on his own. And my mom always said to me, she was just like, from day one, you refuse to give up, and that's kind of carried on my whole life. But I think testament to my mom, like she's a badass, and she would still whip my ass if I ever stepped out of line.
Dang, your mom sounds a lot like my mom.
Yeah,
But that just goes to show, the strong upbringing that, you know, we have these days, especially nowadays. And we're probably
yeah.
in that same generation age group. Um, how would you compare your generation to probably the next generation of wrestlers that are starting to get their feet wet into the system?
It's a weird one, and I kind of have to tread carefully nowadays saying stuff like this, but sometimes certain places have it too easy. Um, in terms of like nowadays, if you go to a training school, the ring's already up. It's a really great facility. You've got all these coaches at hand to ask questions to. Um, an opportunity is almost like given and not earned as much. However, on the flip side of that, some places are still doing a great job of that. We try and drill it home at the little school here at Titanic Wrestling at home. That's kind of like a little bit why I fell in love with slam, because it's like a throwback to the old school style of wrestling where it's so legit, it's so real, and like I can tell you that for a fact. Stepping in there with Starbuck it's up there with one of the realest experiences you can have, but in the best possible way. There is nothing like a match that feels like a real fight. It's an incredible buzz, and you'll probably not sleep that night because you're just like, that was awesome. And I love just that scrappy getting smashed in the face and hitting the guy back even harder.
And see, it's funny you mentioned that because I remember when I first chatted with Starbuck. It was after he did a show in Finland against Tajiri, and he had a black eye, and
Yeah.
he said he said anyone who says wrestling is fake is full of shit and don't understand taking one bump in the ring. He said unless you take one bump in the ring, then you can answer the question: is wrestling real or fake? Which is true. Because when I actually took a bump in the ring,
Yeah.
and I've mentioned it numerous before on past episode of Mike World Order, the moment I landed, I almost took a shit on myself. Because the impact, it just, after that, anyone who says wrestling is fake, I just say the same thing. Unless you've taken a bump in the ring, you have no say so of whether wrestling's fake or not.
Yeah.
Um,
Hell yeah, that's so true. Great.
yeah, true story. It was at a little independent show, and I'm thinking, okay, I lift weights, I got a strong back. I was like, I can do this. All right, here we go. Went for it, took a back bump, boom. And while I took the back bump, I thought because of how my body took the impact, I thought literally I was about to have to get a change of underwear. Because literally I felt that that's what the feeling it felt, the impact of it. Like if you're not prepared for it, fans, if you're not prepared for it, it's gonna feel like you're about to take a crap in your pants. It's legit.
Yeah, very much so.
And now, I know after a while you left NXT UK and you start working the indies, working for various promotions, and then we move on to you being in Slam Wrestling. And I've seen you in other independent matches, going against guys like Big Damo. And there's this one match, if you guys see it on YouTube or whatever streaming sites you go on, there was one that stood out where it was a four-way match between you and Neville, who went back to being called, Pac. That was it's not often you see four junior heavyweight style wrestlers have psychology in a four-way match. Usually matches like that, it's spot fest, who can outdo who. But that one, there was a lot of emotion and psychology in it. And I'm pretty sure a lot of ice packs the next day. But as we get to Slam Wrestling Finland, to me, I'd say probably your biggest standout was, being part of the George Hackenschmidt Invitational Cup. And there we see you right at the bottom of it. And each week it was showing a profile on different stars and characters that were participating. And pretty much to me, I'd say, and it's not biased because I like Starbuck, but I'd have to go with the MVP of that tournament was your semifinal match with Starbuck. And yes, the punch spot that you were talking about, I saw that as well too. It was like, Uh,
Yeah.
tell us tell us how that match was like, just from start to finish. How you were feeling going into the semifinals of that tournament? Because up until that tournament, most people just knew you as the wrestler from NXT UK.
Yeah, yeah. So like it's a weird one because I'll always be grateful for the platform of WWE, but obviously on the independents is where you can really be yourself and there's no restrictions and there's no time frames or anything like that. It's a lot different. Stepping in there with Starbuck, I was anxious and excited at the same time. So I was like really excited because I knew how hard he hits and how hard I hit, and I knew for the fans that it was going to be a treat. I also was anxious because I was like, God, this flight's going to suck tomorrow because I'm going to be black and blue and I'm going to have the crap beat out of me. But this is why we do it and this is why we love it. And sometimes when you're so buzzed, and it doesn't matter how sore you are afterwards, especially when you have a crowd that hot and just a match that match was so different to anything I've done this year, maybe in the last 2 or 3 years, because it was just so gritty and so real. And that like again, I can't stress enough. That's why I kind of fell in love with Slam a little bit. Like the first time I was there, it is such a different product, and it is a real throwback. And I'm an absolute. I love throwback wrestling. I love old school wrestling. I love World of Sport. I love all types of wrestling, but I am a massive fan of that old school style.
Okay. So before we talk about the finals, I know you mentioned of old school. Would you consider yourself a fan of the territory wrestlings in America, such as like the NWA with Jim Crockett Promotions, and Memphis wrestling with like Jerry Lawler and
Yeah,
stuff like that?
yeah.
Okay.
Um, I, I actually watched randomly because I'd heard Ric Flair was coming back, and I'd been watching a
Yeah.
lot of him and Steamboat, and that stuff. It's still it's ridiculous, and the pace that those guys go at is outrageous. Still to this day, it holds up. Do you know what I mean? If something's that old, I always kind of compare it to Arnold Schwarzenegger in bodybuilding because everyone knows who he is. And if you say bodybuilding, like most likely someone's gonna be like, "Oh, do you remember Arnold Schwarzenegger?" Because he was the
Yep.
blueprint. He's still the guy now. Even these guys on stage, he might be bigger and going on more juice than anything else, but whatever. They're they're still talking about Arnold because his physique was so different and he was such a character. And that's kind of like the same thing with the wrestling sort of side of things, like the Fleurs and the Steamboats and the Dusties. Like those guys had so much character, incredible timing, and it just felt real when you're watching it. You know what I mean? And that's what we're looking for. That's what's missing in a lot of the product these days.
I can definitely agree with you with that statement. And I think it's because most, like I said, nowadays people just want to watch a spot fest. And I think that's why a lot of wrestling fans, they start reaching out more to a lot of promotions in Canada and Mexico and the UK and Japan, because after a while you kind of get tired of the same old stuff. And I think it's funny, and I think you would agree with this statement as well. But I feel like every wrestling promotion that's not American still has the old school way of booking and psychology and how to put a match together and the emotion and everything. You don't really see that as much anymore in today's modern pro wrestling. And I think because of that, people are starting to venture out into like watching different promotions around the world. Um, I mean, what do you think? Would you agree on a statement like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's still. I say this all the time. It's like that old classic ice cream reference. There's so much. Like Spotfest as such is what you're saying. It is so impressive in one hand, but it's like that to me. That's not pro wrestling. That's not what it is. But and in the other hand, I'm like I can appreciate how athletic these guys are and talented they are. But it's just like imagine if the right person had like if they had a mentor or a coach who could be like you could get so much more out of this, and these people could go home like they could be crying, they could be laughing, you want to take these people on the journey. It's just like when you watch your favorite movie, you're not
Yeah.
questioning anything that happens in that movie, and that's the key to a perfect wrestling match, where you sit there and not one time do you question. When someone hits someone, you should never question it. It should be laid in thick, and that guy should feel it the next day.
Very, very true. And speaking of like spots, I notice one of your moves is, the swanton bomb. And sometimes you do it springboard. And probably I guess the question I'm getting at is, um, are you a big Jeff Hardy fan?
I loved Jeff Hardy when I was growing up, for sure. Hardys were a massive deal because it was in and around the triangle ladder matches with like Edge, Christian, the Hardys, the Dudleys, and all that stuff. I mean, that guy's still going now, and considering what he's put his body through, it's pretty impressive, right?
Oh yeah, very, very. And he's never been a physique guy. That's the funny part. He's not the big gym type person. And it's
Yeah.
crazy how his body to this day still holds up from doing all those type of matches. But I've always wondered that because I even noticed on some of the matches where you do it, you pretty much hit the Jeff Hardy guns and then you know fly out there. So I always thought
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that. I
yeah.
was like, okay, wasn't sure if it was a Hardy Boys tribute or maybe it was just you doing it your own way. But it always that kind of raised
Um,
my eyebrow a bit too.
yeah. So I always try and put my own spin on anything that I do, but the springboard one, now there's a good chance I'm wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure I'm the only guy that does it from the springboard. But there's a good chance somebody somewhere is doing it. That's pro wrestling. Every time you think you've done something creatively, someone's done it somewhere else. But
I mean, I've seen it as a flipping senton, but not in that swanton style. So I think you
yeah,
are one of the only ones to do it in that way.
awesome. We'll put a trademark on it here now.
Yeah, if it's said live, it's true. So
That's
back
it.
to the back to the George Hackenschmidt tournament. So then we got the finals, where you pretty much became the eventual winner and everything. Now tell us how that was going into it compared to the semifinals with Starbuck. How would you compare the finals and the style of how that was? I mean, obviously you won, but like, how would you compare the styles
Uh,
from?
so like the final was just, oh man, that dude is huge, crazy
Mhm.
strong. And I was still kind of rattled from the Starbuck match because it was an absolute scrap. So I remember just coming out, and he was like the hometown guy as well. So I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. I do feed off the crowd a lot. Whether they're loving me or hating me, it definitely is something that you need. And then as soon as we locked horns and he just threw me, I was like, oh man, I'm in for a fight here. And then he threw me about quite a bit. And then I kind of realized that like he's definitely a lot bigger than me. He's a lot stronger than me. But and again, like you're saying about the difference in my condition and how I looked, and this was my thing. Like I'm a massive, massive Rocky fan, as anybody is, and it's I would like that episode of The Simpsons. I like to compare myself to Homer Simpson because I've got more guts than brains, and it's just that fact of they can keep kicking my ass, but I'll keep coming back, and I'll come back so much that they're just so tired that they're like, "God, this guy won't die," and then that's when they switch off for that 1 second, and that's when I land that kick, and it's game over.
Yeah, because once again, seeing that kick, that was killer. I
Woo!
was like,
That was,
yeah,
yeah,
it it looked like when, and I could be just over exaggerating. It looked like the way you landed that super kick. It looked like you put all of your energy into it because it
yep,
looked
heart
like
and
by the
soul,
end of
baby.
it, yeah. I mean, by the end of the match, you looked like your body expression felt like I just got done with the ass beating of my life and still somehow won.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
I
it.
mean,
And again, uh, that's definitely my mama's blood in me, just refusing to give up. But I still remember just rattling him with that super kick, and it was like I'm pretty sure I felt his brain spill onto my heel. I hit him that hard. And that's when I knew, as soon as that landed, I was like, I've done it. I've got this. This is mine.
Oh yeah, because literally I watched it, and the moment you hit it, I was like, ooh. I was like holding my jaw like, dude, oh. I was like, oh man. That man.
Yeah.
You might as well say you got
my
the,
foot
the
hurt, that's
golden,
how I knew.
man, the super kick heard around the
That hurt
world.
my foot, so he stopped. Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it gave me mad Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty vibes. So, yeah, more power
Yeah.
to you. But we also got a question from the group chat from J Rod Numero Uno, our co-executive producer. He mentioned, do you have any plans for being part of the Best of the Super Juniors in New Japan or any other tournament for different promotions in Japan?
Oof. I would love to. Absolutely would love to. Japan is something that I really wanted to do when I was younger, and I would still obviously love to do it now. I was it's a weird one because I was sort of like saving up for the Japan thing, and it was obviously the big thing to do back then because that's what Finn Balor done. That's how he sort of made his name for himself, and then everybody tried to kind of follow that blueprint. And unfortunately, I tore my ACL pretty close to when I was sort of trying to make a move to there and make it happen. And then after the ACL thing, I was busting my ass to get back to wrestling in general. It was like it was supposed to be 18 months recovery, and I did it in 10 because I just really needed to get off that bed and I needed to be back in the ring. And then everything kind of started to fall into place, which is crazy because I remember my mum saying, "Oh, is that you done with wrestling?" I was like, "No, I'm honestly just getting started. As soon as my knee's good to go, I'm getting back in the ring." And she was like, "I'm not going to be at a show, just to let you know. I can't physically go and watch you after seeing what you've been through with the surgery." And the next thing, I got the email about the try. And I actually, funny, you were talking about Big Damo earlier, I had to actually email him and say, "Is this a legit email?" Because he'd already been there. And he was like, "Hell yeah, it is. Make sure you're busting your ass." And I was like, "Don't worry, I am." And then obviously the rest is history, and the tournament came around not too long after that.
Wow. That's crazy. That's, wow, 10 months. Wow. I mean, that just shows right there that drive you have of not wanting to give up and not wanting to stay down. It's one of those things where it's a good a testament to pretty much, like you said, your mother's strength. And I did not know about the backstory about you know, as an infant, pretty much was told 24 hours to live. Yeah, I did not know that. I mean, I've seen your matches, but I didn't see like the promos and everything from WWE. Me, I'm just more of a match person. I'd rather see the matches than promos. Compared to how I was as a kid with the Attitude Era. Attitude Era was more 6-minute matches and 20-minute promo segments. But that's amazing though. That's really amazing. So we're gonna do a quick intermission, and then the second half of the show, we're basically typical guy talk. We're done with wrestling at this point, unless you got more stuff you want to mention. This is where we find out from Tucker, the wrestler, to now Tucker, the actual guy. So before we do that, we're going to go ahead and play one of your matches from, I think it was the first round of the UK #1 Contenders Tournament. It's you against Joe Coffey on NXT UK special.
The following contest, scheduled for one fall, is a first-round match in the WWE United Kingdom Championship Tournament. From Belfast, Northern Ireland, weighing in at 191 pounds, Tucker!
First round continuing of the second annual United Kingdom Championship Tournament. And here comes a superstar with a very, very unique story. And what I mean by that unique story, Tucker was born with just 26 hours to live, and now he's here trying to advance into the second round of the United Kingdom Championship Tournament.
That's right, born 8 weeks prematurely, wasn't given long to live whatsoever. He's always been an underdog for his entire career, though. Came back from a career-threatening knee injury to be stronger than ever.
And his opponent, from Glasgow, Scotland, weighing in at 240 pounds, the Iron King, Joe Coffey.
Joe Coffey brings two key elements to any match: unyielding resolve, and he hits really, really hard.
No question about it. Look how slow he takes walking down to ringside. He's in no rush. He knows what lies ahead of him. And boy, is he ever capable of achieving it. Coffey lives by the phrase, ad majora nata sum. I was born for greater things. Let's find out.
Well, Tucker, the obvious size and strength advantage, a 630-pound deadlift for Joe Coffey.
It's that size and strength advantage clear to anybody watching this match. But one thing you may not be aware of is the super-duper kick of Tucker.
Well, that super kick can come in a blink of an eye, as Coffey backed up this time in somewhat of a clean break. And for Coffey, he has battled the likes of Drew McIntyre, Cassius Ohno, WWE Hall of Famer Kurt Angle as well. No stranger to big competition as Joe Coffey.
You talk about big competition, that is Tucker. Last year's tournament, he hit that super-duper kick on the eventual winner, Tyler Bate. He feels, had Bate not fallen to the outside of the ring, he would have beaten Bate and perhaps had the same success that Bate had after that.
Well, talking to Tucker, he certainly thinks the same way you do, even mentioning he wants to become the face of the United Kingdom division, and certainly knocking off Joe Coffey here tonight, making it to the second round. And it was the first step in doing that, as Coffey just using that strength to power Tucker down to the mat.
Simple wrist look. With that size and strength advantage that Coffey has, even more effective.
So you take a look at the size and strength you mentioned about Joe Coffey. So how does Tucker combat that in this first round matchup?
Really, to me, he's just got to look for that opportunity to hit a super duper kick. If he hits that, I think he can beat Coffey.
And Coffey just mowed down Tucker.
Coffey has a background in rugby, gave up a promising professional career in rugby, actually, to pursue his sports entertainment aspirations.
And we talked about, Coffey, plenty of big match experience, looks to transform into success here in this championship tournament. As Tucker goes up, goes over. Tucker showboating a little bit, going all the way to the top, and what a back elbow, taking Coffey off his feet.
Nice.
Covered, hook of the leg, Coffey out at 1.
Well, Tucker told me he's leaned down, dropped about 10 to 12 pounds, looking for a faster physique. There he was looking for it. Looking for that super duper kick. But Coffey knew it was coming.
And caught a pump kick from Coffey, did Tucker. Tucker continuing just to showcase his strength.
Oh, big swing from the Glaswegian. Oh, and a suplex to follow up.
Covered. And Tucker out at 2.
Butterfly suplex, reminiscent of the great Billy Robinson.
Coffey, who's just used his brute force, but does have that cunning technique, as we just saw that mashup a moment ago. Right back to the midsection.
Tucker said he wanted to outsmart, not out-heart his opponent.
Look at those fists from Coffey to Tucker.
Tucker's barely able to get hands up to protect himself at this point. Those body shots landing. That landed too.
Tucker, I don't know if Tucker wants to get into a slugfest with Joe Coffey.
He does not. No question about it.
Almost decleating Coffey with that uppercut. And now Coffey, more of that strength advantage, that brute force we talked about. Coffey seems to just be soaking it in right now.
Well, Tucker is stunned. The Iron King looking confident as ever. But he's not rushing it, Vic. Doesn't want to make a mistake. Doesn't want to give Tucker the opportunity to hit that super duper kick.
Why would he rush it? He's enjoying right now what he's doing to Tucker. Just beating down the smaller opponent.
Well, to play devil's advocate, he wants to get this over because at any point, as long as he hasn't beaten Tucker, Tucker can certainly beat him.
Tucker already tried for that super duper super kick moments ago earlier in the matchup, and Tucker right now, no position to hit any sort of super kick on Coffey.
Coffey has the straight jacket.
In center of the ring, there's nowhere for Tucker to go. Tucker able to get back up for the moment. Trying to counter it. Oh, and Coffey pulling him right back in.
Tucker trying to use the leverage there because he didn't have the strength advantage.
And one jumping knee taking Tucker down. Certainly not where Tucker wants to be.
Not with a bigger man with that sort of weight advantage.
Oh, just wrenching on Tucker is Coffey.
Pulls him out and a shoulder block.
Oh, just stomping right on Tucker's face was Joe Coffey.
Oh, that caught him a little low. Oh, he ran right into that.
Coffey again, fist to the midsection. Oh, a knee right to the spine. Coffey into the cover. Just a one count.
Wow. Did not expect that, Vic. Tucker kicking out at just one.
So is that more out of instinct?
Potentially. Sometimes as match goes on, sometimes you'll take a 2 count. Even that extra second is enough to get a little bit more energy back.
Nice roll through by Tucker. And Tucker trying to get out of the gates in this matchup. Nice Hurricane Rana taking Coffey off his feet. And now Tucker starting to build a little bit of momentum in this first round matchup. Ooh, Tucker knows there is no tomorrow. One and done here in the United Kingdom Championship Tournament. Flatliner, Tucker into the cover. But again, referee in great position is another cover and another near fall.
Great call from the referee. We see here, Tucker hit the beautiful flatliner. Tucker's leg is underneath the bottom rope. The referee saw it. That's why he did not count.
Oh, Tucker all the way to the top rope. Oh! Swanton Bob got caught. Coffey getting both knees up. Oh! What action we're seeing tonight. Oh! Coffey with that discus lariat. And Coffey advances.
Your winners and advancing to the quarterfinals of the WWE United Kingdom Championship Tournament at London's Royal Albert Hall, Joe Coffey.
Well, take nothing away from Tucker, but what an impressive victory for the victor, Joe Coffey.
Certainly a man to be contending with in the future of this tournament. Well, let's take a look. You see a man that size with a beautiful dropkick double leg. And then this, wham! Discus lariat, turning Tucker inside out. A dominant victory for the Iron King.
And the Iron King, the latest superstar to advance in the second annual United Kingdom Championship Tournament. Coffey now moves on.
That was a very solid match. I like how they showcased you in terms of the commentary. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Oh, what? I think Tucker lost signal. Uh oh. I think either Tucker lost signal or he might be back. While that's going on, so far, hope everyone's enjoying the show. And this kind of reminds me when we did mWo Super Saturday 1 with Starbuck, where he kind of lost signal. But yeah, keep bringing in your questions for, our dude segment for the show. Dude's Night In this coming Sunday. Time to be decided. because I got to go to some Memorial Day picnic that afternoon. So it'll probably be that night. But while we're waiting for Tucker to get back or be reconnected, could be connection issues. Just want to go ahead and plug in a few things. This coming June, we have Bash at the Beach 2 Thunder Boogaloo. Basically, musicians, dancers, singers, whatever talent you got, come on the show. We've already got half of June booked. So you still got time to put yourself out there for the second half. And during the month of June, we're also going to have an mWo Super Saturday 4. And then, of course, July, we have the Mike World Order Great American Bash Women of Power. So we'll be having that going on too. And it looks like, I think Tucker's back. Yep. Let's bring back Tucker. Welcome back, mate.
Sorry, pal. Not sure what happened there. Sorry, buddy.
Could have been a connection issue, but yeah, we were mentioning how the psychology of that match, even though Joe Coffey won the match, the way everything was set up and the fundamentals that were put together, it really looked like you was about to have that win. Had it not been for that one spot where your foot was under the rope. I was like, oh, come on, ref. But yeah, that was a nice solid match. Very, very good. So we got what we call now our dude segment based off of our show that we do called Dudes Night In, where it's basically guys being guys, talking about the most random stuff. Pretty much it's guy talk where, shooting it with the boys. We have a plethora of questions from our very own base Kip. So we're going to go ahead and start it out. Tuck, what is the best piece of advice Fergal Devitt gave you while training with him? And have you guys ever had a match that we can visually watch online? And lastly, what was your favorite Prince Devitt face paint during his time in the Independence?
Best advice. He gave me a lot. Like, I would have went to a lot of his seminars and stuff in Dublin, and he was always very complimentary of my work and stuff. And so my facials were always good. And at that time, I was always, anytime we were doing the seminars, anytime we had a break, I was eating something and just trying to put size on. I was quite young. And I remember him saying to me that he really struggled with the same stuff, and he always laughed when he seen me with food, and he was like, keep doing what you're doing, man, and just keep eating and keep kind of putting the size on. He's like, you're smashing it in the ring, and you're always keen, and your energy's really good. I remember the Free Arena show in Dublin. He gave me a really good piece of advice that's really, really stuck with me to this day in big sort of arena shows. And that's something a lot of people never really tell you. But when you wrestle in certain venues, and you'll probably start to notice it now that I've said this on certain events, but the noise travels differently. So if you're in a massive venue, sometimes the noise travels out. It takes a little bit longer to travel back in. And you can't sort of stress or be like, why is the crowd not reacting? Because they are reacting. It's just kind of the feedback is a little bit slower. And that definitely is something that takes a little bit of getting used to.
All right. And then his next question was, have you guys ever had a match that you can visually watch online? And
no, unfortunately not. It's a guy that I'm still chomping at the bit to wrestle, and I'm sure it'll happen someday, but that's one I would definitely love to have.
And then he wanted to know, what was your favorite Prince Devitt face paint ring attire when he was on the Independence?
Yeah, I really liked the Joker one. I thought it was pretty cool. He had so many. The Venom one was pretty sick as well. The Joker or the Venom one, I think, were my favorite too, maybe.
Okay. And then Base Kip also had one more. Yeah, one more. He said, obvious question. Biggest dream match opponent for you?
So it used to always be Shawn Michaels, just because he was the man. AJ Styles would be a close second, because I was just thinking the second I seen AJ on the wrestling channel back in the day, where he was wrestling for Ring of Honor, and I just flicked it on randomly one day. I was like, "What is this? This is like wrestling that isn't WWE. Oh, it can't be very good." And then I remember being like, "This is mind blowing," because it was stuff that I'd never seen and stuff that wasn't being done at the time. And then you just knew that guy was going to be something special from then and there. And obviously, the whole pun of he's phenomenal, but he really is, isn't he? So that would be like something I would definitely love to do. I got to wrestle Paul London years ago, and obviously I've already wrestled him, but I would love to wrestle him on a bigger stage, because he's the man. He's an awesome dude.
Okay. Well, more people from the group chat probably got more questions. I pretty much got a couple as well too. One actually follows up with um, biggest dream match. I have one. What would you say would be your biggest dream location to have a match? Whether it's the Tokyo Dome or the Superdome or anywhere in the world. Where would you want your dream match to be at?
This is going to be really, really strange, but like, obviously the Madison Square Garden is definitely one location. The other thing I would love to do is like be that big of a deal that you can kind of fill out a stadium, or like an outdoor event in Belfast somewhere that held 45 to 50,000 people, because that's something I'm pretty sure has never ever been done by WWE. And I think if I was to get back there, that's the kind of level I would want to be on, like a McGregor level, if that makes sense, like that kind of Uber over, like Steve Austin over, where you could sell arena out on just a name. I feel like that's something these days. It's a product now, right? Like, I mean, all these guys are amazing, but there's very few mainstream, major household names that it's like that the Tyson Fury fight. He had, I think it was 80,000 people just came to see him box. That's ridiculous. That's incredible. That's the dream.
That is amazing. And I could see ideally Madison Square Garden happening. I can see, somewhere in Belfast a situation like that. I mean, you never know with a platform like Slam Wrestling Finland. I think they can eventually pull that off, and hopefully we can be able to watch it on Mike World Order and pretty much root you on and everything. Yeah. So we also got another question from. Oh, go ahead.
I know there is rumors of a Slam Wrestling streaming service coming in August. That's all I can really say for now, but going by from what I've heard, it could be something really, really exciting, and I think that could become massive. Just the exposure from a streaming service alone, and then again, just such a different product, and obviously just something different for everybody to watch.
Oh yeah, I was about to say Starbuck did mention about that, and he just pretty much said stay tuned, and I'm like, oh, I plan on it.
Yeah.
But oh yeah. So we got another question from J Rod Numero Uno. He pretty much asks, how was your overall experience in Finland during the Invitational Cup?
In Estonia for the George Hackenschmidt?
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing. I'd been to Estonia once for a stag do, and I loved it. It's such a cool place. And then obviously Starbuck had got in touch about the tournament, and then going through in the American car show to the semifinals. So he was like, well, it looks like you're going to Estonia. And I was like, awesome. Really, really cool experience. Great people, amazing crowd, really good energy. And then that live event, there's something about wrestling live with me that I love. The UK tournament was live. I could be wrong in saying this, but I'm pretty sure NXT UK has never done a live show since that. But there's definitely something in me that could perform on a different level. when it's live. When it's live, I just feel like there's a switch in me that just goes off, and I'm just on a different level.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Where would you say is probably the furthest you've traveled going to a wrestling show?
That's a great question. I know I can't really say too much about it right now, but I'm going to be wrestling in Dubai at the end of the year, so that'll be pretty far. I've did like 11 different countries, but my geography is still absolutely trash. So flight-wise, I usually like sleep or take notes, or my missus got me a PS Vita. So I'm usually like so transversed in one of those three things that the flights go by pretty quick now. I've mastered the travel side of things that way. Not all the disasters, but the flying's not so bad.
Okay. So, what would you say is your favorite genre of music?
That's a really hard question for me. I listen to like so much random stuff. So I still listen to like Kid Rock and Limp Bizkit from back in the day. But then I'll listen to like Oasis and things like that. It depends on the mood. And my missus is like a massive Disney mark, so I end up singing random Disney songs, and I don't even know what the movie is half the time.
Random. Well, okay, so
Usually Lion King or something.
oh, I was about to say, what's your go-to Disney song to sing?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hakuna Matata is always good.
hey,
Good.
no worries. Oh man. Uh, favorite movie?
Another great question. Gladiator has to be up there for sure. Talladega Nights, it's a little lesser known, but it's a great movie. And Dodgeball. Dodgeball has to be up there as well.
Oh yeah, dodge, dip, dive, dodge, and yeah, dodge.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's okay. I can see it. Honestly, I could see you more as being more someone into the Transporter series for some reason.
Oh yeah. I've never seen it.
I don't know
Never actually
why.
seen
I
it.
got Transporter vibes off of you. It's a great movie. It's a great movie.
I have to
Base
check
Kit
it out.
mentioned
Is
the
that
crew
Jason
is his
Statham?
favorite.
Is that Jason?
Yeah.
Statham, no? Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah.
need to check that out.
Oh, most definitely. Like anything Jason Statham, like you can't go wrong with, especially the
Yeah, he's a
Transporters.
boss.
That's what got me into it.
I'll
Oh
have
my
to check it
gosh,
out.
it's dude, it's worth it. It's very very worth it. And let's see what else random stuff we can ask on dude segment, because I know someone in the group chat's about to ask something that's probably going to be out of left field. But I will go to say most embarrassing moment, whether it's a show or at the gym. What would you say would be probably your most embarrassing moment, comedic wise?
Jeez. There's definitely been a lot. There's been a lot. When I actually was doing my NXT UK run, we used to kind of like hang out at night time with all the boys. I had the absolute worst luck you could imagine. I had it, and I have had it for years and years with traveling and kind of things going wrong that you couldn't even imagine. So I'll tell you a really quick but funny story. So the first tournament, so actually I think it was before the tournament that happened, we had to go and do like get your bloods done, the car wash, which is just like getting your pictures taken, getting the videos taken for the promos and stuff for the show.
Right.
And it was in a really, really high class hotel called the Intercontinental Hotel. So it was like a 5-star hotel. And I was so anxious because my travel always is a disaster. So I got there like 3 hours early just to be sure. So I get to the hotel. I give my name at the desk. They're like, "Oh, your name's not on the list." So I start to panic. Like maybe it's because I'm so early. I'm like 3 hours early, and I explain that it's with WWE, and they're like, "Yeah, yeah. There's a few names down here. What we will do is take prepayment on your card, but we'll refund it when they get here." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine. That's no problem." So I go upstairs and get into the room and get settled. Now this room, this room is ridiculous, and I don't know how I didn't clock it. But I was like, it's like you press a button on the wall and it turns the shower on. It's just like as high class a room as you can imagine. Plasma TV on the ceiling, all that stuff, right?
Wow.
And I'm sitting thinking to myself, this is incredible. And I remember coming out of the lift. There's like a little guy that came up to me and he was like, "Can I take your bag, sir?" And I was like, "No, no, like it's okay." But he was taking my bag whether I liked it or not. I was like, "Okay, yeah, no problem." And I remember having like when you done the UK shows, it was like they were adamant you needed to wear a suit and you needed to look the part, and that was like a big thing from Regal, and I totally agree with it because the boys everybody looked awesome, and it's just just makes everything so much more professional. Anyway, I ended up pulling what I thought was like $10 out of my pocket. It was 20. I handed to the guy anyway. I don't really care at this point because I'm in this room and I'm living my best life essentially. So about, about 2 hours go by and I come back downstairs and everybody else is starting to arrive. One of the guys starts chatting to me and I was like, "Can you believe like how good this hotel is?" And he turns to me and he says, "Oh no, man, I wish we were staying here." And my whole face dropped. And like you said, when you took that bump in the ring, that's pretty much how I felt. Like I was like, "Oh my god, what have I done?" So I'm stressing. Like when you're so stressed, you can feel yourself instantly starting to sweat. I'm starting
Yeah.
to sweat, and like, what's going on? What's going on? Then Robbie Brookside comes in, and I get on really, really great with Robbie. So he puts his arm out. He's like, "Oh, what about you, son? How you doing? Oh, where's your bag?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's already round the corner. What we're doing, all the stuff." "Oh, right, no problem." And I'm like, "Oh my god, it's in the room." So we come round the corner and we're sitting, and Regal is kind of giving us like a speech about how he wants things done. This is all pre-tournament and what's going to be happening, and Triple H is going to be flying in. There's going to be a press conference, so all this really exciting stuff. But I'm kind of just thinking, how do I explain that I have checked into the wrong room? And Jordan Devlin at the time was getting his wrestling gear made by the same person as me, and she lived really close to me. So Belfast and Dublin are quite far apart. So maybe like 2 hours apart, I guess, not that far, but I ended up collecting his gear and my gear, and he turns to me, he's like, "Oh, have you got my gear?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, it's in my bag." And he's like, "Oh, have you been to the hotel?" And I just like, I'm shaking my head, and he's like, "Oh, you okay?" And he like, we were pretty pally, so he like puts his hand on my leg and he says, "Man, don't be stressing. You're so good, and you've got this. Don't be nervous. Just enjoy it." And I'm like, "You don't understand what has happened, man." So the meeting starts, and Regal's like, "If anybody needs to go and get anything from their car or whatever," so I get up, fully sprint to the desk. I'm like, "Guys, I'm not staying here. I need to get this payment taken off my card." It was like $500 a night in this place or something crazy. And the girl is like, "Oh, but you're already in the room." And I was like, "Honestly, I haven't used the toilet. I haven't touched anything in the room. My bag's sitting there. I haven't moved the bed. I haven't sat down. I haven't anything." So they're like, "Oh, I don't know if we can do this." So I'm gonna go and get my bag. So I sprint up, I get my bag, I'm coming back down the stairs. I bump into the same guy who helped me with my bag to the room originally. He's like, "Let me take your bag, sir." And I'm like fighting him. I'm like, "No, no, give me my bag." I don't want some guy like dragging my bag around, and Regal seeing me have some guy like drag my bag around the place. So eventually I get back to the desk, get refunded, get sat back down, and explain to Jordan and the boys, and they pop like nothing else. Sam Gradwell hits the floor laughing, like he's belly laughing on the floor. at how stressed I am and how much I'm sweating. He's like, this is, and like any of those guys who know me in NXT UK, I'll tell you, they're like, this could literally only happen to you. It was insane. And like a handful of things of, there was a time there was a hotel gym. I got locked in the hotel gym. I got locked in Pure Gym. My room key broke. I couldn't get into my room. It was ridiculous. There was something, honestly, there was something every week, but it was fun. It was a pop for the boys, but it was a disaster for me. But there you go.
I can tell. Oh my gosh, that is too hilarious. Dang. I bet you learned that lesson today.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough.
But I mean, at least you can say you felt like you were, a WWE main eventer. You were, you had that experience for a moment.
Yeah. It was intense. I'm just glad Triple H didn't walk in. What are you doing?
Yeah, he would have looked at you like, "What are you doing? How did you get to this wrong place?"
Game set match right there.
Oh my goodness. Well, Tucker, I appreciate you coming on the show. How would our Mike World Order fans be able to reach out to you and see upcoming matches and dates for you?
So my Instagram and my Twitter is the same. It's @Tucker_UKCT. They're both exactly the same. I'll be truthful. You're better off commenting on Instagram because I know how to work it. I'm really bad at social media, really bad at computers, but I finally got the grasp of Instagram. I've got so many shows coming up, and I know that Slamfest, the road to the Slam Championship, is on the 9th of July in Helsinki, and that's going to determine the other guy in the match. So with me winning the George Hagensmith Cup, I'm automatically in the first ever Slam title match, and whoever wins on the 9th of July will go on to face me on August 6th for the first ever Slam Championship. And I would like to say I will be the first champ, and it'll go nicely alongside that trophy.
Hey, by any chance, would you like to come back to the show?
100%, man.
Before
Yeah, that was awesome.
Before the pay-per-view, we would love to have you back, even if it can be just for like a dude's night in, where it's just having a good laugh with the boys, the rest of the crew. That's pretty much when we give them the night off, just to be on screen and have a good chat. But yeah, we would love for you to come back, especially as we get closer to the pay-per-view, where we hope to see you as the first Slam Wrestling Finland champion. Like, I definitely look forward to seeing that.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Well, of course, awesome. Tucker, we appreciate you coming on. Hopefully we'll see you next time on Mike World Order. Fans, as they said, follow him at Tucker_UKCT.
That's the one.
There we go.
Good man.
That's the one. Got a better chance getting a reply on his Instagram than Twitter. So
that's very true.
Get the Instagram at first.
Awesome. Oh, yeah. I'll try my best on Twitter. My message can help me out.
Oh, yeah. Base Kit mentioned. And that's another guy. If you ever need logos or anything done for T-shirts, Base Kit is a really good guy.
Okay, awesome.
He's created a lot of logos for our show. He's created a lot of logos for local indie wrestlers, baseball players. He's good. He's a good guy. We'll make sure you get taken care of. If you got a vision, Kip can pull it off.
Awesome. That sounds great.
All righty. Well, we appreciate you being on, Tucker, and we hope to see you next time as the champ.
Thank you, sir. You will. I promise you that. Take care, man.
Will do. We'll see you soon, brother.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Once again, shout out to Tucker. And once again, the people at Slam Wrestling Finland, thank you for letting us have this opportunity of bringing Tucker on. Fans, if you're out there, reach out to the guy, follow him, retweet everything, repost everything. We want to see this guy make it. We want to see this man when he returns back on Mike World Order as the very first champion, just like he was the very first George Hackenschmidt Invitational Cup winner. That is a lot to say at one time. I'm Mike Thunder. This concludes mWo Super Saturday number 3, and we will see you later on in the month of June for a special mWo Super Saturday number 4. We're speaking of base kip. It'll be a base kip appreciation night because the guy has helped out so much backstage and helping promote Mike World Order. If you ever get a chance, find Base Kip on Instagram, follow him, give him a shout out. If you ever need anything done, check him out. Next week, we got on the first opening week of Bash at the Beach. Thirsty Thunder Tuesdays. We got Christina Sisson returning as we're going to do our random 5 famous female wrestling matches. And then, of course, our opening night of Bash at the Beach, we will have coming in recording artist Sage Bay, who we might have possibly play a song. We're not sure yet. Hope so. And, of course, throughout the month of June with Bash at the Beach, we'll be having different artists, musicians, whether you're local or you're global. If you want to get your talent shown, contact me. We'll bring you on the show. Free advertising. Why not? Anywho, check us out on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and now recently Amazon Podcasting. And you can also find me at Twitter at mWo Mike Thunder or on my Instagram at Mike World Order. All one word. No special characters. That is my username. That being said, see you guys next time this Tuesday on Mike World Order. Good night, everyone. Well, good night for everyone on the other side of the country. It's still daytime here. I haven't had breakfast yet. Think I'm going to fix me a sandwich or something. I don't know. Steak. What do you guys think? Yeah? Let's go ahead with the closing critics.